Welcome to the Healer's Circle, where extraordinary healers share their personal journeys, wisdom, and how to heal yourself. My hope is that their insights, practical tips, and aha moments inspire and guide you in discovering your own gifts to reach your highest potential. Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for being here today to have a little casual chat with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a blessing to be able to be in this space with you.
You, Alexis, are the Ancestral medicine steward and earth-based educator. But the way I met you is actually I started to come to your monthly tea ceremonies. And for me, someone who grew up in Estonia, my mom never gave us like an actual Western medicine, but it was always about, oh, we can find it in the, somewhere in the nature or in the herbs or in some sort of plants. And I love how in the ceremonies that I have experienced with you, you make it so gentle and welcoming, where a lot of times people are kind of like, well, I'm just having tea because I like the flavor, but there's so much more behind it. Could you please share, and I also want to know more like how you got started, but first to kind of let us know, what do we even talk about the, medicine steward? What does that even mean?
Yeah, so my work is really rooted in earth-based and ancestral practices that help people slow down and reconnect with themselves during times of change, to really find the medicine that lives within them. And I work deeply alongside plants, ritual, ceremony, and not to say that these are fixes, but more as allies. On how we can walk better upon the earth and create a stronger relation to not only the earth and the natural world, but our heart as a living energetic center, and each other in community, and also our lineage, our ancestral lineage, rediscovering what it is that we carry that our ancestors carried as well. And that can look like identifying ancestral pain, ancestral trauma. And I think in a growing spiritual space, that's really easy to talk about is the inherited traumas that we've been passed down, that have been passed down to us. But I also really like to give light to the inherited ancestral gifts and the love of our ancestors that has been passed down to us. So my work is an enmeshment of all of these things that really creates Seeds of Being, which is my practice.
So then do share a little bit. How did you even get on this journey?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot because I'm actually at the turn of a decade. I'm 29, about to be 30 next week, and just really giving a lot of gratitude to my walk that really started when I was 21. When I was 21, there was a lot of upheaval within my life, a lot of grief. I contemplated suicidal ideation, and from that point forward, it was a strong commitment that I actually wanted to live. And that embarked me on my spiritual journey of reconnecting first with my maternal line. I was severed from my mother at a really young age, and the whole maternal line. And so in healing that and wanting to know more about myself and cultivating a deep sense of awareness and solitude, I really came to the plants and the earth as a way to help me through this time. And when I embarked on the healing journey with the plants, I also at the same time manifested, not intentionally, but just by choosing to work on myself, different teachers that came onto my path that have given me so much love and wisdom. And with that, I knew that I wanted to deepen into what it is to be a steward of the plants and the earth, because they gave so much to me. And about 5 years ago, I started diving in on spiritual and folk herbalism. And that was the root of my practice. Diving into that form of practice opened me up to an ancestral lineage that I was severed from, but was waiting for me to come home to them. And my ancestral lineage comes from many different nations. I'm part Filipino from the so-called colonized Philippine Islands, but I am also part native to the North Americas. My great grandfather his ancestral lands were from North Carolina, so Cherokee Nation, and then I also have part of my ancestry in Mexico, Michoacan, and then I also have small parts of my ancestry that reside in Ireland and Basque. So all of these ancestors come together to make me who I am, but it was really the ancestors that live on Turtle Island, which is the place that you and I are on, the United States and the southern parts of the Americas, that really asked me to be a steward of their ancestral traditions to bring forward.
That is so beautiful. And I love that you have this variety of tapping into all these different worlds, because that means that so many more people can relate to you in so many ways who need and who want what you have.
Yeah.
So do share a little bit more. I've experienced the tea ceremony part of it, then I also want you to share more with that. But if it would be individual person wanted to work with you, what would that be like? What would it be either for, or how would that work?
Yeah, my offerings, my Seeds of Being is my life's prayer, and that's my practice, but I have different cornerstones within that work, and one-on-one practices I help guide spiritually, to be for the person to better understand what is their walk here on this earth, or what is it even that we are not only what we're here to do and what our purpose is, because that could seem like such a big scope, but sometimes our purpose is to live and live fully. And what is blocking us from living fully a really beautiful life? Because there is so much noise in what I would say are westernized, and I also further that and say our capitalized and industrialized society that kind of keeps us in the mind. And with that, we're limiting the wisdom that our bodies hold, that our heart holds, and if we're bearers of the womb, that the wisdom that lives within our womb. So my offerings help people uncover what is it that they're holding on to that might not be serving them, or that's blocking them from really tapping into the wisdom of their heart and living a really fruitful life. And one of my practices, or one of my offerings within my practice, is limpias. I have been able to study curanderismo, which is a Mexican folk healing prior to colonization, and I offer energetic cleanses, which is limpias, and that's for anybody. Although it's rooted in the ancestral traditions of Mexico, this practice is for anybody who feels they are carrying on to too much, or they're energetically sensitive, or we live in a crazy household, or we have a crazy work schedule, and sometimes the noise is just too much. Sometimes we need to be cleared. So I like to think of it as like an energetic hygiene, a way to keep up with our energetic hygiene. So people will usually come to me to clear their field so they can receive on a deeper level. What is it that spirit, their guides, ancestors, the earth is trying to communicate to them?
I love that, because here, of course, if people listen to this later on during the summer, but right now for us currently, it is the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And I love how it would be lovely to be able to do a lot of clearing and cleansing and do the transitioning into the new year. So how could the plants and ancestors support us in that kind of closing a chapter or clearing it and moving on to the new?
Yeah, one thing I want to bring forward here, since I work so deeply alongside like indigenous ways of knowing and indigenous forms of timekeeping, here we're in the height of the yin part of the year. So fall and winter, we're really turning in. And although we are closing out a numerological year on our calendar, we are still very much going into winter, which is this time of introspection, of rest, of stillness. So anybody who is feeling that pull to continue resting, although we are quote unquote going out of this year and into a new numerological year, it's really important that we still honor our need for rest, and that if we don't have goals that we want to seed just right now, that's fine, because usually springtime is the time that we would plant seeds for change, plant seeds for projects, so that during the summer they can come to fruition, of course with us working towards them. But I really love bringing the scope of the fact that we're still in winter. but also knowing the fact that we do recognize numerological years. And this year, if most people may or may not know, that it was a 9 year. So this is a 9 year that we're coming to completion. In Chinese astrology, we're also going to be closing out the year of the snake in February. So we have a 9 year of completion of a snake year of shedding. So we may have shed and completed a lot of things, but with that comes up with a lot of grief. A lot of grief comes up. We probably let go of a lot of things. Maybe some doors closed, not intentionally, but they were done so for our best interest. We may have let go of different parts of ourselves that we thought were going to come into the new year with us. And we also may have said goodbye to certain projects or people in our life. And during these times of change and of grief, the ancestral ways of tradition were really to embark in ceremony. What does ceremony mean? And if we're not so connected to what our specific lineage's form of ceremony was, even just going to the earth or going to the altar at home and creating a small ritual that honors all that you have let go of or all that you have come into, and honoring the fact that the earth holds us in all of that. That's a way that we can really ground into these times of change, and also allow ourselves to be held by the earth, because the earth is living. We are part of the earth. We are not separate from her, and she wants to hold us. And the more that we can recognize that and come back to that, we can realize that we don't have to carry all these things on our own. We don't have to feel like life is so heavy. Although it will be at times, there's all these forces in the seen and unseen realms that really want to help us if we choose to start looking at ourselves as a greater part of a huge web of life.
I love how you're making all of this really nurturing and soft and not as pushy, because I think a lot of people in the end of the year are going to be, oh, now I need to do everything before that clock strikes, and you're saying, no. Sure, the number of the year changes, but still allow yourself to come to the soft landing where they need to be, because we don't have to have all the goals yet on January 1st necessarily set. And also how the Mother Earth is really supportive in all these ways. And also I want to bring back the plants now here. In addition to that, it's like, what would be some of those plants through the form of tea or some other form, how people could use it as a support, doing these transitions?
Yeah. The first one that really comes to mind when you talk about the support from the plants, and I actually have her in my cup here, is Mama Cacao. She's ancestral medicine to my lineages. She's a native plant that grows in subtropical climates, in Middle America and South America and different parts of the world. But really, I really talk from the Mayan cosmovision that really holds cacao as a deep heart-opening medicine. So during these times of transition and shedding and dealing with grief, our heart can sometimes become closed off, or our heart is very open and it's very prone to energetic shifts. And what cacao, as a plant spirit, we drink her, and we drink her in ceremony, we drink her in ritual. I even drink cacao to start my days sometimes, just to be a little bit more in my body. But as a plant spirit, she really calls us back to the heart. She's very much a grandmother spirit. That's what I've learned of her. And just calling her in invites this softness and this nurturing, of remembering that we're okay to be where we're at. We don't need to put too much pressure, and it's okay to come back to our bodies and our senses, because a lot of the times when we're going through these transitions, our body holds on to so much, sometimes too much than we can handle, and it can manifest as body pains. We can have a lot of anxiety. We can have a lot of just discomfort and imbalance within our body. And cacao reminds us of the medicine of movement, of really moving our bodies to let go of these times of change, to not let go, but to help integrate these times of change, actually. And Furthermore, now that we're in Capricorn season, as you know, with my tea meditations, we work with the astrological season. We're about to be in Capricorn season in 2 days on the 21st. The one that would really help during this time until January, mid-January, is Burdock. And that's actually the medicine that we're going to be working with in January for my monthly tea meditation. And Burdock really furthers this shedding. We could see on a physiological level that burdock really helps move the blood. It's a blood builder, and it's a lymph builder and a lymph mover. But on a spiritual level, burdock really helps get to the root of what we need to shed, because a lot of what we're carrying is ancestral. And how can we step into this new phase of life, shedding and becoming more of who we are at our essence? Because a lot of the times when we sit in ceremony, whether it's with plants that induce an altered state of consciousness, or tea on a more practical level, they really help us not become more, but just remember who we are. They help us shed all these layers. I like to bring in the analogy of peeling an onion to remember who we are at our core, because this walk of life, especially in a society that doesn't always stress or highlight our connection to the natural world, it's so easy to forget why we came here. And like I said in the beginning, we come here to live, and we come here to love, and we come here to be in communion with community of people of different walks of life that we resonate with. And we have medicine in that, but sometimes life throws us curveballs. We're in a society structure that doesn't always support this way of knowing. So the plants really just help us remember, whether it's remembering our heart, remembering our creativity, our inner child. The plants really just strip us back to what that essence is, not to become more, but just to remember. So in my work, I really stress this path of remembrance. It's to remember why we're here, and it's to remember that we are connected at all times to something bigger and to each other.
Yeah, I just so love that. The remembering, right? Versus that again, like softens everything, versus people thinking, oh, I don't know who I'm supposed to become and I need to get somewhere. It's like, well, no, actually, it's coming back in here to remember what is in here, what you were already born with, and just rediscovering yourself and starting to pay attention to it. So what would be some of the suggestions for people who, of course, if they can come and attend your tea ceremonies, we'll add the links and information later. They're welcome to it, and how they can reach out to you. But if someone is at home thinking, well, what can I do right now? You know, like maybe I can't come see you till next year, but what can they do at home right away that would be supportive? Is it certain tea then, or is it something else? Or where would they even, does it matter where you buy it? Is it okay that it's from the store, or is it loose, or is it packaged? Do those things matter?
Yeah, I'm really big on practicality and finding your inner medicine, and also intentionality. So I'll speak on a little bit of of these things. I feel in this walk of the healing journey, it's always important to find practitioners that you resonate with, that can be guides, but also it's really important to start building that intuition and recognizing that the medicine that many seek around them is already living within them. And with that, building personal rituals that feel good for the individual is really important. And I always start off with just asking if anybody has an altar at their home, or a sacred space where you have maybe a crystal that resonates with you, maybe a picture of an animal whose medicine really resonates with you, and a candle that you can come back to every day and just pray to. And this idea of prayer and this ancestral tool of prayer is something that has gotten me through many of life's transitions, a lot of trials and tribulations, but also a lot of times where I was really grateful for everything that happened in my life. I think coming back to a sacred place, and a place that you can pray to with whatever you believe in, whether it's God, source, creator, the natural world. Everybody has their own belief, but prayer is a sacred act that transcends all religions, all beliefs, just giving it to our guides, our spirit guides, that we are here and we are listening, and we are also asking for help. And I think building that personal practice that is rooted in sacred space and prayer is just a good starting point for many people who might not know how to start on this healing journey. And then bringing the plants into it, we could also sit at our altars and pray and be really intentional with tea that we sip. So, for example, if people don't really know what plant spirit is really calling to them, we could always play to the astrological season. So like I said, we're going to be in Capricorn season. We could sit with a cup of Burdock tea and bringing this intentionality aspect into it. It's just sitting with the tea, sitting with the fact that we have water in our hands, and water holds so much frequency. So when we sit with our words, the water is able to hold those words, right? And we can just say, I call upon the spirit of Burdock to help me identify what in my life needs to be shedded so I can become more of who I already am. And sitting with that and being very present. I think a spiritual practice and building ritual really requires a sense of presence that we can offer to ourselves in a society structure that doesn't always allow us to be present. And see what that brings up for people, sitting with the spirit of Burdock and seeing what comes up. Maybe there's an idea, an image, or a message that comes through, and just journaling about it. That could be a really practical way to start this journey of healing, starting ritual, starting your journey with the plants. And so that's why I say practicality, intentionality, and prayer is very important with any practice to be built.
And again, I love how you make it so kind of like easy to access for people, kind of like, well, I don't know how to pray. I don't have this. It's like you're saying, just even a simple picture or a candle, whatever it is that is already probably at home. And like you're saying, just bring a tea, whatever you currently, we should say whatever they currently have at home, or go out. It's like at least start from somewhere. Yeah. And I love again how you're saying that you're connecting with plants.
Spirit.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just so amazing. I just love how it makes it so different. And again, it makes it more like a two-way communication versus let me just drink some tea and, while I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
That knowing that you're connecting with a plant spirit immediately makes you kind of tune in and slow and connect, and then also welcoming people to journal. I think it's a wonderful way to do it. Does it say anything about a person if they tend to like, let's say, oh, I love hibiscus, or oh, I like the dandelion, or I like this or that? Does it mean something that if the person is drawn to a certain plant naturally without even knowing about the plant?
I love that you brought that into the space, actually. So a lot of the times the way we can start building our intuition to know where we're being guided to is just seeing, like, there's this call for me to sit with lavender and seeing embarking on that journey of sitting with lavender. So I would say go to the places that you're called to, but also on the other hand, one of my teachers while I was beginning my studies in folk herbalism also told me to lean into the plants that we are actually turned away from. So for example, when I first started my journey in folk herbalism, my assignment was to just sit with different plants one at a time. And the one that I really didn't want to sit with was rose. And my teacher told me, it's probably your ego that doesn't want you to sit with rose, because knowing what you're moving through right now, rose is actually a very powerful ally. So sometimes the ego puts up this defense mechanism as to what herb it doesn't want to sit with, because the ego holds on to comfortability, and sitting with a certain plant might start breaking down those walls, which might bring up feelings of uncomfortability, but it's something that we need to move through to either open our heart or let down any wall that we might have to relating another, which is some of Rose's medicine. But yeah, I would say you can for sure go in the direction of what you're called to, but also just begin exploring, like, why might there be a resistance to a certain plant? And you could even look it up, what the spirit of the plant means. And then you could say, oh yeah, actually that is something that really resonates with me. And maybe I'm kind of scared of embarking on that journey with that plant spirit, but I know one day I can lean in, because the power of the plants is that they're always there. And I love that you even talked about this idea of being in a two-way communication, because that's something that I always talk about within my different offerings and my one-on-one offerings or my ceremonies, is that this indigenous way of viewing the natural world, we're in communication with all these spirits, and not one is above the other. Human is not above the plant or animal kingdom, or vice versa. And when we call on a plant teacher, we're actually calling upon a very, very wise teacher that has probably been around for more time than we can imagine. And you've probably heard me say this in my tea meditations, that the plants are like ascended masters when we call them in as spirits who could be at so many places at one time. And we are choosing to be in communication with them. And with that, there has to be a form of reverence. And that's why I bring it back to prayer, because when we're praying, we're being very reverent to the fact that we're in front of an ascended master. And we're calling upon them to be in communication with them, not just to take or to fix us. And when we're in communication with somebody, or we're learning from somebody, we don't just ask, well, what is it, everything that you can teach me, and then I'm just going to take it. It's actually like, okay, you're able to give me this wisdom and this knowledge. Now I'm going to be in a place of reverence and respect by acting upon that and moving in a way that honors that wisdom and that knowledge. And that's how healing unfolds.
I just love it. I really, really love it. It just also brings me back to my aunt, who just the other day I spoke to her, and again, she's in Estonia, and she's like, yes, it's interesting to see that whatever the time of the year, or like when I go to the yard and I'm just looking whatever weeds are growing there, and let's see if it's dandelion or something else, and then I Google what it is, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I needed right now. So kind of like trust a little bit of what's coming your way as well. Be it like you, in my case, I don't even know how I stumbled up on you, to be honest, but I've been loving the tea ceremonies with you. Or if the person is in the store, or someone gives a gift, or just even, would you say that even if you're in the grocery store and you don't know which tea to take, just to kind of play with it, like see what's calling you, either for the look or for the feel, or hold it. What would you say? Would you have some tips for people like, okay, I'm not a tea drinker, where do I even begin?
Yeah, I think at that point, there could be just more on the physiological level we could start with, than maybe exploring going into the grocery store and saying, well, I actually have trouble sleeping, so maybe I could sit with a sleepy time tea, and then seeing what's in that sleepy time tea. Oh, chamomile, lavender, more than likely, right? And then if you want to take it a step further, you could sit with just chamomile or just lavender and see what that brings up for you. But I feel like the gateway to, before calling in plants as spirits, is just really seeing, what does your body need? What type of nourishment? Sometimes we need, I love that you brought dandelion, because dandelion is sometimes vilified because it is a weed, but maybe sometimes we do need that support for the liver. And dandelion is beautiful support for the liver. But we're thinking about the liver, and that's where emotions are actually processed. So dandelion also works on emotional processing. So we could really start with like the physiological aspects of, these are certain imbalances, or this is something that I need assistance with. And luckily with us, for the plants, they don't only work on a spiritual and emotional level, they work on this physical body as well. And that could definitely be a gateway. For me, it was, because prior to transitioning my work to ancestral medicine and ceremony and being a folk herbalist, I was a personal trainer and a holistic nutritionist for many years. And what really guided me to the plants, knowing that I needed to steward them, but I found a deep interest because I knew they were a holistic way of working on my body. Mm-hmm. So if there's that drive to really work on your body in a holistic way, and knowing that the plants can offer that, that could definitely be a gateway.
Yeah, I just love that. It's like, yeah, it's in so many levels, like you said, through the prayer, or for your physical body, or for the spiritual aspect of communicating. There's so many possibilities around that. And I just love the way you do the ceremonies. When you're looking back to your journey, and if you could now go back in time, to your younger you can choose whatever that age is. What would you tell yourself
Hmm. Yeah.
Knowing what you know now.
Yeah. The younger me, she, I was actually thinking about her when we first opened up because you had asked about my journey, and my journey, I would say the thickest part of my journey started 9 years ago. But I think back to little Alexis, 5 to 8 years old, who already knew, who always asked questions, who wanted to help people, who loved being outside. I would tell her that feeling different is okay, and not fitting into everybody's molds of what they
Yes.
think that she should be is okay, because she already knows what she wants, and to stick with that truth and not to let anybody dim that truth, because sometimes it can create a little bit more chaos than needed, trying to fit into molds that don't necessarily fit the medicine that she had her entire life. And I think that's why, full circle, I came back to what my inner child already knew was true.
Yeah, that is
For a lot of forgiveness on the path because I
yeah.
forgot.
And I think that is so relevant and great for so many people. And then, addition to that, what is the tip you would give to these people right now? It's like, well, this would be a good thing to do when you're in a place where you feel like you need to be somebody else, or you're not sure if you're fitting in, or you're in a kind of a lower place of not knowing or not being kind to yourself because of who knows what.
Yeah.
What would be a gentle way, addition to the beautiful offer you suggested earlier, is to sit with the tea and then do the prayer and do the connection and journaling. But what could potentially give them that little bit of encouragement that just walk this path? You're going to figure it out. Just keep going. Like, what's your additional suggestion on top?
Yeah. I think that I would say life is always going to throw us curveballs, and it's not about finding the easiest path through life. It's being able to know our resilience throughout that time, and knowing that, life, what the plants have taught me, and just being a walk of life who's experienced many ups and downs. Just like a roller coaster, we're going to go up and feel really high, but there are going to be moments where we go really low. But those are the moments that really stretch us and remind us of the medicine that lives within. So it's really important during these times where we're questioning everything, we're wondering why things happen to us, we don't know who we are, to really quiet the noise from the external world. And that's why being in community is so important. Healing happens in community, healing is relational, but also solitude is really important. So when we could, not isolation, not isolating ourselves and numbing, but when we can come back to a place of solitude, sitting with ourselves and not trying to maybe put a screen in front of ourselves when we're feeling really low, or drink a lot of alcohol or use a lot of substances, sitting with ourselves and maybe sitting with the earth and going to nature and being with what is it that is trying to move through me? What is it that's trying to be asked of me during this really low time of my life? Because it's trying to teach us something. Our lows are really trying to, and that's not to bypass the fact that lows are really hard, but there's always beauty in the darker parts of life, just like our shadow. Our shadow is not something to put off in a closet or close it away. It's actually something to be friends with and be comfortable in those times, because more than likely it's going to come back again. And when we can sit with ourselves and remember our connection to something greater, even if we don't have a lot of people within our community, or we don't have a community at all, it's really important to just know that we're resilient, but also to be graceful. We don't have to try to escape it. We don't have to try to get out of the feelings of uncomfortability too fast. If we could just sit with it and remember that we're here, we're present, we're in our bodies, that we can navigate it a lot more gracefully than what we think. And coming out of these times, it will help us remember during these times that are really high, like, yeah, I made it out of that, and I did that. I was able to come out of that and make it into this really beautiful time of my life where I'm more learned, I'm more wise, I'm wiser, so I think of I think this is said a lot, but I really do think of healing as a spiral, and that's coming back to the indigenous way of time, and then we could see it in the seasonality shifts. And nothing is linear. We're walking this spiral over and over again, and if we choose to learn, we're revisiting old wounding, the same wounds over and over again. But if we choose to learn from it and not get stuck, we're actually moving upward on the spiral. And here it's not to bypass that bad things aren't going to happen. It's just to remember that there's things out there that want to support you, and those things don't always have to look like people. They can look like our Earth Mother. They can look like the plants. They can look like your altar. They can look like your ancestors. But it really does take a certain sense of discipline and devotion to really make it out of these times. And then it really shows us what we're made of, because humans are so capable, and they're so intuitive, and they're very strong and resilient. Contrary to what we hear a lot is that, humans are destroying the earth and we're a fluke of nature. We're not supposed to be here, which to an extent, we are doing a lot of damage to the earth. But I firmly believe that humans are here because we have a superpower of being able to steward the earth, to steward each other, to forgive, to love, and to connect people to each other. So I think that might have been a little bit of a tangent, but hopefully I answered some of what you were asking.
Great, absolutely. And so maybe before we wrap up, because I think there's so many different directions I could have this conversation go from, like earlier on, like, oh my God, which way do I want to go? But for the ones who are kind of tiptoeing the world to the, how would I say, away from the Muggle world, more into the spiritual world, like,
I love that.
Tips you have to encourage these people to find their path or keep going, even if they're like, I don't know, am I the only weirdo here? And like you did mention, to find the communities, which is so important, so we don't feel weirdos, and so we do have that support. But any other tips for someone who's just starting that path?
Yeah. I'll deepen into the community aspect for a little bit. So there's so many different spiritual communities, and I think it's really important within these spaces to use a sense of discernment of who you really resonate with. A lot of the times when we're on this path, we might feel like we just want to belong right away, so we'll go to the first spiritual community that we find. But it does take some trial and error to see what is it that we resonate with and what is it that we don't. So there might be, some hiccups along the way of finding your tribe, chosen family, whatever it is. So not to be discouraged if, you find a spiritual community and it doesn't really resonate. There's always going to be something out there. But coming back to what you said, I think also just starting to, learn from people who walk a walk similar to what you envision for yourself, whether that's walking with or walking alongside or learning from somebody who works deeply with a certain earth tradition, or maybe a tradition that it comes from your own lineage, or maybe somebody whose magic being like the medicine that they offer into this space really resonates with you. So I think it's really important, especially while this isn't like, it's becoming more mainstream, but not so mainstream, to just really explore. Know that within that exploration, doors will be closed, but other doors will open. And then really finding other people, not just teachers, who will also help you with what they've been through. I think the community aspect is one of the most important things to me. But also just diving into different practices, taking different classes, and it doesn't have to be like this huge investment into like a training. But even where I work at Mystic Flora out of Mystic Flora Apothecary, we do one-off classes for different things, like a candle making workshop, energy healing, whatever speaks to you. Just being experimental and being open in that experimentation, that some things will hit and some things won't.
Yes, I love that. I think that is so great. And I often do say it's kind of like have a buffet, taste it. Some foods you like, some you might not, but at least you know, and it gives you more clarity on your path of what is yours. And once you're there, you'll start feeling the calling or the truth for you. And I just love, Alexis, that you took the time to meet with me today. Thank you so much for bringing your world there with us. And like I said, we'll share links later how people could reach out to you or maybe join us because I'm planning to come to your January ceremony again because I really adore them. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Ingrid. It was a pleasure.